Do you expect there to be more creative financing deals that are going to happen in the next year or 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, right now it's still a buyer's market, and we probably won't see any interest rate drops until 2027 or later. So learning creative finance, it's not too late. You have a lot of potential going forward.
If you guys have properties that aren't performing, they haven't performed well, cut them loose and go to somewhere else. You don't have to continue to bleed on a strategy that isn't working for you. Not all of them are going to work. Again, it's like a trial and error type of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the game. You're going to lose and you're going to win some.
I feel like I'm not supposed to say this. I don't want to buy physical assets anymore. When I got into short-term rental, I literally had stuff from garage sales in my house. And now you need to spend 50, 75K tricking out your house so hard for someone to even stay there. And I just don't need to play that game. It just depends on where you are in your investment horizon.
Welcome to the JV Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Vasquez. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to, this is supposed to be Midterm Monday, but for those of you that don't actually know, every Monday I hold a free, we just talk about midterm rentals every single, which is why it's called Midterm Monday. And today I'm actually going to be turning this into my podcast. So you're actually getting a sneak peek to Midterm Monday, which is on YouTube and my free Facebook group. And today I have one of my good friends, Zeona McIntyre. Zeona, what's up? I've known you for probably like 4 years now, and I'm pretty excited to have you because you're going to be at the summit this year in literally like 40 something days, which is freaking wild, Zeona. I can't believe it's happening like so damn fast already.
Neither. Yeah.
Super excited. Do you want to tell everybody about who you are? And everybody probably already knows you already, but if you want to do a little quick intro.
Sure. Ooh, put me on the spot. These days, gosh, I feel like I've been 10 people. So who am I today? A lot of people will know me from the book that you contributed to, 30 Days Stay. I'm a co-author of that, done through Bigger Pockets. And yeah, I started as a short-term rental investor and did that from 2012 till about 2020. And during the pandemic, I really switched to midterm rental way later than you. You were in it in like 2015. I'm so jealous. And that was wonderful for years. And I have now doing a lot more with creative financing, which is perfect because Pace Morby is going to be the keynote at your summit. So I'm really excited about the alignment of that. And yeah, I help just people achieve financial empowerment. I'm all about financial independence, financial freedom, traveling the world. So we can get into all of that.
Yeah, we were just talking about this before we actually got on air, is that for the last 4 years, Zeona, I've been like, you guys, look at this is all gray. I have so much gray hair right now. Like I'm hiding it underneath my
It's
hat.
all their fault.
It's literally everybody's fault. It's my fault. And let me explain to you why. I've been so deep in the trenches that I haven't been able to like actually enjoy life the way that I probably should be, which means like, yeah, I'm making decent cash here and there. And some months are better than others, but I should be heading to Hawaii. Like you were just in friggin' Hawaii for, I don't even know how long. And you travel all over the place. And I feel like, I want to get to that. I want to get to a position where mentally I feel okay to do that. And I know that everybody has seasons that they go through grinds. Mine's been like literally 4 years, guys. This August 17th will be 5 years leaving the W-2 job. And it's tiring. Like it's tiring. Like I'm just tired. So I feel like I'm just ready to kind of like start to get a big ass calendar like Jesse Itzler. Have you seen that? He's got a big ass calendar this entire year. And he just marks off like exactly what he wants to do. He's on like what month, where they want to go, what they're going to do. And like, it's already laid out. So I'm going to get a big ass calendar.
My whole year is laid out.
Is it?
And we have so much travel. Yeah, it's like we live right now. Like you're not promised any other days like we have today. So like I want to be enjoying it from this moment. And I make my income streams like work around that. It's like people want to tell me, oh, you can't sell real estate unless you stay home and you take no vacations. I'm like, as that, I'm selling real estate from Bali and Maui and doing whatever the heck I want. So I just found a way.
That's super dope. You know what? Speaking of that, are you having like people walk through properties for you in certain markets, or you're just doing a lot of the creative financing now, right? Which you're doing a lot of that kind of sub-to creative financing deal.
Both, So it's like for the stuff that I sell in Colorado, which is like my primary market where I live, if I'm not home, I tag someone in. There's so many people that are excited to get experience, be paid to help, like get cut into a deal because they're like slow right now. So there's not like any difficulty getting people to help. And then a lot of what I sell is nationwide, as you saw a lot of those creative finance deals. And a lot of those people are buying sight unseen. They're not really doing tours. But I had 3 tours today, and they just like let themselves into the property and then they tell us when they've left. Like there's always a way. So you can do it from anywhere.
I love that. Yeah, and that's cool that you've actually been able to make that happen because I know a lot of realtors are super like, I want to meet the family, I want to be there, I want to do this, or I want to meet the investor. And like, you're kind of just like, I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to have somebody else meet you. I'm still in control of the situation by, obviously connecting, but we're going to have somebody else meet. And you're able to do that remotely, which I think is pretty cool because a lot of realtors just don't think that way at all.
Yeah, I think my focus is like service and being like devotional. So everything that I do, I care deeply and I want to do as good of a job as I can do. And I can still do that from afar.
Yeah.
So
I,
that's
I
just the important focus.
Totally agree on that. So, okay, cool. I'm gonna jump into this because you and I both have been in the midterm rental space for a while, and we're talking about creative finance. We just talked about that a minute ago. Can you explain to everybody what creative financing is? Because I think that creative financing or sub two, it's a lot of people know it now from Pace this as called sub two. It's been around forever, but I think being able to pick up a property creatively, whether it's sub two, some type of finance deal with the owner, and then you go into midterm with that property or short term or whatever you decide to do, whatever tool you decide to jump into, co-living, whatever. I think it's one of the greatest strategies in real estate now. Like that's been around for quite some time.
Totally. It's a game changer for
So
sure. Yeah. Sorry, I'll shut up. You finish.
no, I was gonna say, can you explain that to everybody so they get what creative financing is or sub two is? Because some I think still think people don't necessarily understand it, and you obviously know this. So yeah, do you mind doing that?
So creative finance is like a huge umbrella. That can be seller financing where the seller doesn't have a loan and they're working out terms directly with you. It can be subject to where you're taking over the existing mortgage. That could also be like an assumption if you were taking over the mortgage and actually putting it in your name. You can do lease options, or sometimes people call those rent to owns. And then it goes deep. But what PACE has made popular is subject to. And that is the idea that that mortgage stays with the property. So it's a lien on that property. And when that seller sells it, that lien is still in their name, but it's attached to the property. And you, as the buyer, are saying, cool, we don't have to pay that one off. I'm accepting that that is going to be attached to the property I'm buying. And they get the benefit that, at least back in the day, a lot of those were like 3% loans, 4% loans. Some of the ones I see now are higher than that, but I still see the occasional like 2.5, and those are so sexy.
Yeah.
So it allows you to get just a lower monthly payment, which gives you way more cash flow potential.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's the whole point of the game, right? It's like you gotta get cash flow, and I think the days of the, 4%, definitely 3%, and especially the 2s, like, I don't know if we're gonna see that again for some time. I know there's speculation around, rates dropping and all this stuff. I personally don't know what that's gonna look like, but are there still a ton of creative financing deals, and do you expect more to happen with, tariffs that are going I think the cost of everything is gonna be continuing to go up, which is gonna put more strain on the average person that has a property. So do you expect there to be more sub two properties or more creative financing deals that are going to happen in the next year or 2 or 3?
Yeah, well, right now it's still a buyer's market. So it is great time if you're interested in picking up properties to do so because the negotiation lever is there. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, that got into short term rentals, especially around 2020, 2021, when everybody just thought it was like a cab or a cash grab. But then saw the reality of the markets, in 2022, 2023, when things were just not renting as much. And so a lot of those properties are being converted to MTRs. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity, I think, for the next few years. And we probably won't see any interest rate drops until 2027 or later. So I think that's just kind of what people are talking about in the market. So learning creative finance, it's not too late. You have a lot of potential going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think a lot more of the traditional, even homeowners are starting to understand what creative financing is. Like, it's just, I see real estate signs that say creative financing on the top, which is freaking wild because 5 years ago, we would have never seen that, Zeona. We've seen, for sale or sub two, or like, I see that actually on for sale signs, which is wild, which is kind of cool because we can like, now we, as investors, we can go in and find them. So that's my question for you. How do we go about finding a sub two deal or creative financing deal? How would the average person that's just getting involved in real estate find those types of deals?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I want to deep dive on. and the summit talk, because I was just kind of looking at like what I'm going to talk about. I want to talk about finding deals. So we can talk lightly about it. And then people need to come to the summit, see the talk, of course. And then also it's just about like, how do you even structure these deals? Because I think a lot of people that follow Pace, he's really inspirational and he talks big picture and tells all these really great stories. But there's not a lot of the nitty gritty of like, wait, okay, how do I structure it? What are the terms that I need to make this actually work? And so I think that's really important to kind of put that in people's hands so they can get out there and start doing it. For finding deals, honestly, I do a ton of networking on Facebook. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Facebook's dead. It's just for old people. Well, old people own property and you can find a lot of deals on Facebook. So I definitely spend a lot of time in different groups, and there's all kinds of groups based on state, city. You could have like an Austin group or Texas investors, different RIA groups, which are like real estate investing meetup groups. Um, Also, just creative finance. You can use that as like a tag, and you'll see different homes there. And so if you're in a specific market, so generally like you're Central California, people are like, I only want to buy this certain market. You can kind of get in those groups, or you can start following the different wholesalers that you see that are posting in those areas very often. Reach out to them and get an idea of what they have coming up, because you don't have to do all of the legwork yourself. I think of real estate as like a food chain, right? There's somebody involved in every step. There's a flipper, there's somebody who's getting it at auction for a dollar. Like, you're not going to necessarily be the one who does all of the work. So even partnering with a wholesaler that's finding the deals and negotiating the terms, that can be an easy way to get your first one. You don't have to start from scratch. So there are definitely people that are doing like mailers and stuff. But I don't go that route. I'm not huge into cold calling. I think there's a lot of ways to find deals in like a warm state. So
Yeah.
talking to that seller directly on Facebook groups is really helpful. The other thing I'll say, just so you have like something actionable, is using a website like Zillow. There are search features in there that people are maybe not as aware of. There's for sale by owner that you can see on Zillow where you can actually get their phone number and call them up. And so I'll show that in the presentation, like exactly how to get to that tab. But there's also keyword searches. And so if you're searching in Austin and you're like, I want seller financing or rent to own or lease option, you can put those keywords in there and see what deals are already popping up. So you're not just cold calling people and having agents bounce you out. You're like, I saw that you said seller financing. What are those terms like? And then you could start that conversation from a warm place. So that helps a lot too.
Yeah, I've actually called a couple realtors myself, like properties that were sitting on the market for like 180 days or something like that. I'm like, I've asked, are they, there's a family or whoever the owner interested in seller financing, and they're just like, nope, hang up on me. And I'm just like, well, like,
I've done that a lot too.
have you really? Is
Yeah,
there?
that's how I started, but I found a better way.
Yeah, how do you get so somebody like me, it's like, okay, I want to find sub two deals. Yes, I'm going to go onto Facebook, and you're absolutely right. Facebook is not just for old people; it's for people that are looking for deals, not just old people. But how would I go about? Most agents don't want to. They don't want it because they don't think they're going to get commission. They don't want to do a deal like this because they don't feel like they're going to get their commission. So how would
Yeah.
somebody talk to an agent? Like if I was calling somebody that had 180 days on a property, 7 different price changes. Obviously, the property is not selling. The agent's not doing their job. What would I say? What's like a good kind of intro to bring this up?
Yeah. You know, I you can go that route and it's not my favorite route, which is why I like to go with the keyword searches because at least they're already thinking about creative finance. If you're kind of just calling them out of the blue and saying like, "Hey, would they consider seller financing?" A lot of times they are going to be just kind of not interested right away. So when I was doing that, I had mixed results. I did like cold call a few, and I would kinda tell them, like I would get them warmed up first. I would say, like, "Hey, tell me about this property," I think it's also easier because I am an agent, so I can say, like, "Hey, I'm from such and such realty." Obviously, you don't wanna lie about that, but it does help a little bit, but you can still just kind of start the conversation, get them warmed up. And after you're in it a little bit, then you can start to say, have they thought of creative finance? Have they thought about seller financing? Is there a mortgage on the property? Sometimes they'll give you a little more information once you have built a little kind of camaraderie with them. So I like to get them talking first. So I get into that house and the property and the details about it first.
Got you. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. You warm them up a little bit, you get a little context of the property. It does probably help that you're an agent because when I call, they're just like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "An investor guy." And they're just like, "Okay, well, what do you want?" And I'm like, "I wanted this deal as a creative." And they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to get commission. Bye." And hang up on me. And it's that.
Yeah. I mean, telling them that they are going to get paid their commission still is important. So you'd want to structure that so that works. It's just harder because a realtor commission is probably at least 3%, if not, like you wouldn't want to be bringing your own buyer because then it would be six or your buyer's agent because it would be 6%. And that's already too much, right? Because if you're trying to get, like, I have a couple of people that have deals that are hard to sell. And I tell them, like, yeah, we can try for 10% down creative, but if we do 5, we could get it sold real quick, but they still need to pay me 4. So they're really walking away with like 1% if they're like desperate to sell. So, you have to consider that these people still want some money at the end of the day, even if they have a bunch of equity that they're going to get later. So having that agent in place does take away a little bit of the benefit that you can have.
Got you. No, that makes complete sense. Okay, cool. So we talked about creative financing, which again, I think creative finance, being able to pick up a property sub to creative, whatever it is, and you roll that into after the folks move out, you turn that into a short term, midterm, probably one of the greatest strategies on the planet. But I want to talk about this because you and I both got into midterm rentals. Well, I got in a little bit early, but I've seen a big shift, Ziana, over the last, probably especially the last 2 years. In fact, things that I've talked about a year ago don't necessarily work even now, today. So what are some shifts that you've seen? Do you think midterm is still even a good thing to get into in 2025?
Yeah, but I think it's really dependent on your market. So there are a few markets that I'm a big believer in, and then there's a lot that I'm just like not sure. And so I think first and foremost, if you're in that market locally and you can go to the RIAs and you can talk to other people that are actually doing midterm rental, if not, get on the Facebook groups and like network with people. A lot of times investors are really open and friendly and they're happy to kind of share their wins and losses. But I would be talking to them about like, hey, realistically, what kind of rents are you seeing? What trends are you seeing? Is it starting to go down? Do you have the demand that you were having? Are you seeing that like 1 to 2 bedrooms are best, or really it's the 4-bedroom properties? Because that all is market specific. And I have some markets that are a lot harder than they used to be. And then I hear about other ones where I've got friends that have maybe like 20 something units. Maybe they're managing for other people and the demand is killer. Like they're all full. So that would be my first thing. And then the second one is that I prefer ones that have flexibility. So there are markets where you can only MTR, like where I live in Boulder. And then there's markets where you can MTR or STR. And I like that flexibility because the calendar can be the most difficult thing. Is that you just don't want the vacancy and the gaps.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and you're totally right about the markets too. In fact, I just had somebody that was like super gung ho in a market that I thought was even going to do well. It ended up not working well at all. It's in Oregon, and
Ooh, which one?
it was in the Tacoma market, which
Okay.
I've known people that do really well there. But the people that did well there, like they had connections to the local farmers, like people that manufacture cheese. I didn't know there was a lot of cheese out there. There's a lot of farmers, and I guess they have a lot of people that come through. But that's what I ended up finding out is that there's two individual operators that I know really well that have a portfolio of over like 20 units combined together. They have been connected to these companies for a long time, but I thought it was going to do well. And she's been vacant for a long time. And it sucks when you hear stuff like that because like it's like a gut
I
punch in the
know.
stomach because not every
Totally.
market's going to work. And I think that's really important for everybody to know because it's it's really dependent on who's coming through, who needs to actually be there for a certain amount of time. And I've talked about this before when I first started with with the travel nurse stuff. Travel nurses are great, but like if a hospital decides, like this happened to me in 2018, a hospital decided to not have any more clinicians that were traveling and they were just going to hire in house. Everything was gone, like
Yeah.
literally overnight, just like that. And if you're really thoughtful on like who your clients are, who you're going after, and I love what you said about the hybrid model, which is having the short and the mid, if your cities allow it, you could piggyback off of both. Cause yeah, you're right. The blank space in calendars, like that's what kills people a lot of the time. It's that lack of getting those longer term bookings. In fact, I have a property in Aptos, California, which is a beach city, Siena, over by Santa Cruz, like 15 minutes away. I was looking to short term that, was on a waiting list for a permit, didn't get that, could only midterm rent it. That place I've had for about 3 years now. It's probably been rented for about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. And I've been like literally just like waiting for people to book that place. And I was getting to the point where I'm like, oh man, I gotta let this go. Like this isn't working anymore. I think that sometimes, and this is me who's been doing this for a long time, like, going after contracts and all that stuff. Just because the family walks through a property and it's going to be an insurance claim, they might not like it. And a lot of times there was too many steps. Families didn't like how many stairs because it was on a hill. You had to go
Yeah.
downstairs. Like, I wasn't thoughtful enough at that point, which is why we have these calls. Literally, that was one of the big determining factors for many families that walked at home to not get it, was because it had 24 stairs to go down to the actual property. Beautiful home, like one of my favorite properties. But thankfully, I just got it rented. I was like, "Gosh, I need to cut this loose." But this is something I've actually talked about with a couple students of mine and people just in general, Ziona, where it's like a property might not be working. It's been 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is. You're coming out of pocket for, say, 3 or 4 months out of that time, or maybe even longer than that. There comes a point where like you have to cut it loose. And I think that a lot of times people get so stuck on their investment properties that they aren't able to let them go. You got to let it go. Or, if you can't short term it, multiple people in a room when it's co living, like there's other things you got to be able to do. But the problem is, like you mentioned a minute ago, many people got into the short and mid space in 2020, and it's a lot harder now than it was back then. And they're having to
Yeah.
pivot and do different things.
I think our book made it harder, honestly. I was like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. Like, how many people are gonna read that book?" And I'm like, "Okay, never mind." I think it screwed it up.
Yeah.
But I like to just get the info out there and help people. But yeah, this happened to me in Atlanta too. It's like I had a friend that's doing insurance contracts there, and he had just all the contacts. He
Mhm.
basically like cornered that market. And so he's like, "Oh yeah, I can help you, I can place get for you." And it just didn't work out that way because he's placing all of his property first and then maybe some of his friends, and I'm too far down the list. And then because he's got all the contacts, it didn't feel like there was space for someone new to come into the market. So I actually just like could not get it to work in the way that I thought. And so
Yeah.
I cut that one loose. I had it with a partner and it just wasn't good. So I guess sometimes you need to know when to cut your losses.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's like you cut your loss and you move it to a different market that you know is gonna do well. And a lot of us, I think a lot of us will get into this space where we're testing a market, and if you put down 60, 80, $100,000 to test a market, that's not very smart. Like, you have to be exactly like you said a minute ago, get to know the people, like, who's actually operating those markets, what are they doing, what do the returns look like, what does the average rent look like, who's the actual clients that are staying, where are they at, where do they work for, has there been a need, has it been consistent, has it changed over time? It's like all these questions you should be asking people that operate in markets. And just because it worked last year doesn't mean it's going to work this year, which again is like super important. So, I've watched many people that have been, like, I want to do insurance because they pay the most, super hyper focused on that. But guess what? Not those claims. They come in like you have to be in the perfect scenario. Somebody that has to lose their property, which sucks for them. They have to go walk your property. They have to like your property. It's got to be near schools. It's got to be near, sometimes having a bathtub or a fenced backyard. Like little tiny things can determine whether somebody wants to be there or not. And then again, it's like there's like a checklist that people have to go through in order to make it work. Just because you get a call doesn't mean it's going to land. And I think it's really important to have like a spread of all the different types of clients you're going after, and not just focusing on insurance.
Yeah, one other trend that I've seen this year or, started maybe last year that I like a lot and I kind of advise people to look for is if you can find it's not a manager, but it's a tenant placement, I don't know, specialist. It's not necessarily someone who works for one of these companies like, the hospital or whatever, but it's more like somebody like you, maybe what you were doing originally, where you were like, okay, I don't necessarily want to manage your property, but I've got a list of folks and I've got your properties. And if an insurance person calls me, I can place them in these different properties because I know about them. And so if you can get plugged in with someone in a market that is super into that, they've got that all dialed and that they're actually seeing that, hey, there's enough demand. What I usually recommend is I tell people, hey, call that person up, get an idea of the reality of the market, but then also ask them, what inventory do you need? Are you like, oh man, I just really need this neighborhood and I need a 3-2 and I've been kind of like, missing out on a lot of these placements because I just don't have that area served. Buy that because that that's what's needed. So
Yeah.
I find that to be really helpful.
Totally, totally. I definitely agree with you. Catherine in here says, I have a home, seller agreed to seller financing. Can I give you address? Catherine, probably reach out to Ziana at her website. And Brandon, what's up, man? I see Brandon's watching this live right now too. Ziana, go to Zeona McIntyre. You're on Instagram all the time or Facebook. I'll leave her show
Yeah,
notes and everything on the bottom down here. But you guys will get all that information. This is exactly how you probably get people that reach out to you that are interested in this. Somebody will hear you speak about something, all of a sudden be like, Ziana, I have a property that I want to sub to or something like that. Is that how you get a lot of them as well?
totally. A lot of people see that I post deals, like they might be on my email list or on my Instagram, and they're like, "Oh, could you sell mine that way too?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Or like, "Oh, these are so great. I want to like, share this with my friends. Can I like give them your info?" And then they end up buying a property. So kind of works both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the other things I'm kind of jumping around everywhere between sub two and midterm right now. But, another thing about midterm rentals is I feel like certain markets are becoming like super overly saturated where it's like everybody's wanting to do this and they're jumping into markets that are like, there's already a ton of them already. I'll use San Francisco as an example because San Francisco is one of those markets where, and there's regulations coming in the midterm rental side. Just FYI for everybody know that it's the operating out there. Super saturated market. It's one of the highest midterm rental markets besides Los Angeles and New York, like on the planet. You're competing with all these people, like you, and it's like what I've watched happen over the years. Ziana is like you'll see somebody at a $6,500 price point. All of a sudden, like a month later, it's like 6,000. You'll see it again. It's like 5,700. See it again 2 months later. It's 5,500. And then a year and a half, there's one property specifically that was near one of the properties that I have on that market. It's down to like $5,200. Originally started at like 8,000, was renting out, and now it's like all the way down to five. Which market rent in
Ugh.
that space is like 4,000. So it's literally like
Yeah. It's like
it's
not
only
even worth it to have it furnished. Yeah.
and if I yeah, and if I bought a property today in that city, like there's no way that I'd be able to make money from it. Like there's just at 7% interest rate, like it's just not possible, and that's scary. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's why I'm really excited about lease options. And I think for me personally, that would be the next way that I buy a property. Actually, this is a great segue into the fact that you live in the same house that you first bought. It's only 1,500 square feet with your million kids. Wait, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Like, why haven't you gotten bougie on us? What is happening?
I don't care about living in this extravagant, like big giant home. Okay, listen to this, you guys. I bought this house at the end of 2015. Super modest, 1,500 square foot home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Like the room that you guys actually see me in right here, this back room was actually a family room. I was telling Ziona about this before we jumped on the call with you guys. Nobody used this before. It looks like a cool office, but literally right behind this door is a living room. My family's probably in there listening to me right now, and I got to tell them to shut up all the time because they're like making noise and all this stuff. But I just don't care, Ziana, about having like I don't care about having this big giant like house. Like I never really cared about it. Do you care about it though? You want to have like this fancy
Yeah.
house? Yeah.
Totally, I'm ready. I'm ready for
Really?
my time. But, like, so I live in Boulder, Colorado. It's super expensive here, and we locked in our property that we live in, like, in 2020, like, right before the pandemic, and so we got a super cheap price, and then everything's appreciated around us, and we live in a townhome, which is different than a single-family home, so the reality of the market out there is homes are, like, $2,000,000 if you want anything that's kinda decent, you know? And that mortgage, if you just went out and got a regular mortgage, could be like $12,000, like just something crazy. And although there's ways to find out to make that work, I could, like, why? So the reason I like lease auctions is because the rent hasn't caught up, right? So the rent on a similar house might be $5,000 or $6,000. And so if you find that landlord who's just been renting forever and he's got maybe no mortgage or just the cheapest mortgage, he might not think twice to sell that property to you at 6,000 a month. So it's like just kind of thinking about it differently than being like, "Oh, I just have to pay 12, and if I can't pay 12,000, I'm not gonna buy a property." It's like, no, there's other ways.
Yeah. Have you started that whole like bigger property search? Because you're right. If a $2 million home is about it's like 17,000 plus property taxes, you're probably looking right around 20 and some change with
Yeah,
20% down, which
it's
is wild.
crazy. Yeah, I haven't started yet because this is like my last year of deciding if we're gonna move to Bali or if we're gonna stay here. So
Really?
that's
You might move to Bali? That's
we
freaking
might move
cool.
to Bali. We fell in love with Bali this last year. So
That's freaking awesome. I think I just watched a movie where White Lotus. Isn't that where she's gonna did you watch that? Are you watching that right
I
now, the new
don't
season?
watch it. I mean, it was in Maui and then it was in oh no, I think this year White Lotus is in Thailand. isn't
Is
it?
it Thailand? Oh, okay, okay, got you. There's I don't wanna ruin it. Yeah, I don't wanna ruin it for anybody. That I was just watching it last night, and the daughter was like, "I wanna move to Bali." I thought she said Bali, or maybe they're in Thailand, but really cool show.
Yeah.
Brandon's asking, "Jesse, what are you willing to splurge on?" I don't like to spend money on things that I don't need. That was what my 20s were for. My 30s, I definitely changed. I mean, I got, like, a nice car and stuff, but it's not like a crazy car. I just don't care about spending money on dumb things. Like, I personally just don't. You know, I think you're the same way too, right? You'd rather go on have experiences and, like, or do you spend money on
I have
dumb.
gotten really good at getting a lot of things for free. So like I do like points and miles hacking and like I pet sit all over the world. So like I do trades and things, but I love bougie shit, bro. I'm like ready for my big house. I'm ready for like the fanciest car. Like I'm ready. So think I spent my whole 20s being like frugal AF. And that's how I like bought all of my properties and like leveraged everything. But now I'm like, oh, well, I'm almost 40. I was like, the 30s are for this. I'm like, well, the 30s are gone, girl. Yeah, the 40s are going to be for bougie.
Do you feel like, you're not 40 yet, you're what,
No,
39?
I'm going to be 39 this year. Yeah.
Okay, you're still young. I feel like when I
Yeah.
was in my 20s, I was actually just talking to somebody about this. When I was in my 20s, I thought 40 was, like, done. Like, if you turn 40, like, it's, like, over, your life sucks, your back's gonna hurt, which is actually true about the back because I threw out my back literally buttering toast one day. I don't even know how that I was literally buttering a piece of toast, and I was like, "Ah!" My back literally went out from that. But honestly, Ziona, I feel like I'm 42 right now, so I'm a couple years older than you. I feel like I'm like 20. Like if I knew what this felt like at that age, I feel like I'm just getting started. Like to be honest with you, you probably feel the same way. Do
Yeah.
you do you feel
No, it's the best. It's like all the things make sense. You've got like all of this knowledge and skills and everything overlaps in a great way. And yeah, I think you can just finally implement it. So yeah, I hope your 40s are going to be about splurging on travel. And I can also teach you how to travel without splurging. But, I think you need to get out. Get out, buddy.
I do need to get out. It's time for that. In fact, I have like 1.5 million Amex points that are miles. So what can I do with that,
Dude,
Ziona?
you're such a hoarder. You can go literally around the world. You know that you can go on an around the world ticket, business class, which could be up to 10 stops
Yeah.
for 145,000 Amex points.
Dude, I have like 10 times
Let
that.
that register. Yeah, bro. I'll send you some stuff after this.
All right, cool. Yeah. If anybody has any travel hacking ideas and stuff, please DM me. Like, I want to know about this stuff. Everybody's telling me about it. I want to do that. I want to take my family, like all my family, somewhere. We could probably use all those points to do that. In fact, yesterday my brother just got back from the Philippines, and he's like, "Dude, just give me some of your Amex points. I know you have like 1 million or something, right?" I'm like, "Get out of here." He's trying to take my Amex points. I think once people know I have those, they're like, "Hey, man, let me borrow those." Like, I didn't know you can actually exchange them.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that, but it's not a good idea. Use them for yourself.
I am going to use them for myself. Okay, cool. So I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about my Amex points anymore. For those of you that want to steal them,
I
don't
know.
DM me
Now
about it.
everybody's going to be calling you up.
You're like, yeah, I get your Amex points, $5 a point or something. I'm not doing it. I'm using those for myself. Hey everyone, if you are feeling stuck or not like you're making the progress you want in your midterm rental journey, I've got something that can change everything for you. Imagine being part of a community that's not only supportive, but filled with like minded individuals who are driven to succeed just like you. Whether you are just starting out, looking to take care of your business to another level, my community is designed to help you break through those barriers. We're currently opening up registration for new enrollees, so if you're serious about building a thriving midterm rental business and you want to leverage my 10,000 hours of experience, this is your chance. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with others in the same path. I hope to see you guys. The link is in the show notes, and let's build something incredible together. Let's get back to this episode. All right. So we talked about sub two, we talked about creative financing, we talked about the future of midterm rentals. What is in store for you besides going to Bali? Are you still picking up midterm rentals? Like, what are you looking at for in your buy criteria? Are you picking stuff up
I
in
feel like
the
I'm not supposed to say this, but like I don't want to buy as many like physical assets anymore. And the reason it's like, it's a cross of like climate change, like all those fires in LA and just like so much stuff that's happening in our environment that I'm like, I don't want to be the insurance claim, you know? So I'm a little less interested in that. And I'm also just not that into the operations anymore. Like, when I got into short-term rental, I literally had stuff from garage sales in my house, and now you need to spend, like, I don't know, 50, 75K, like tricking out your house so hard for somebody to even stay there. And I just don't need to play that game, like I've already built my wealth. So for me now, I'm moving into a lot more passive investments. I like syndications and funds and um, trying not to pay taxes. So doing all kinds of tax advantage stuff.
Yeah,
So
I'm with
yeah,
you on.
that's the reality. But I know I should be saying buy all the midterm rentals. I still think they're good. It just depends on where you are in your investment horizon. Like I got wealthy with rentals and I still believe in that. But later I get lazy and I do passive.
Yeah, and I think that's part of your season. Like we talked about this earlier, where people go through seasons of stuff. Like me, it's time for me to go on vacation somewhere. But like you had your you had your short and mid fun, and now it's like okay, I have a different model of how I'm investing. It's now congruent with the way you're living your life, which is traveling and doing all other stuff. And yes, managing is a freaking nightmare. It is a nightmare. Even on the midterm side, yes, granted, people come in, but how are you going to find the clients? Like there's marketing and research that has to go involved in that. If you want to create it into an actual business, you got to be way more thoughtful into it. It is not passive, 0% passive, Ziana, on the mid side. Like I really
Totally.
truly believe that.
That's what's real. But I do like I'm a huge believer in if you're wanting to get into to rentals and you're house hacking, combining that is value, right? So just that simple house hacking strategy of getting into a house with very little down, you can do like 3 to 10% down. You can rent out the bedrooms midterm, you can do midterm short-term hybrid because usually if you're owner occupied, you can legally short term. And you can also get more bougie with that where you live in like a separate unit or you have an ADU or something like that so you don't have to live with your tenants. But if you just rinse and repeat that every year for 5 years, you're going to be a millionaire for sure, probably quicker than that. So I think there are definitely ways to still utilize midterm in every market if you're doing something like that. So it just kind of depends what's your strategy and like where are you at season of your life, season of your investing horizon.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think house hacking is freaking genius to do for sure. And Brandon just asked me, Jess, weren't you selling properties as well or reevaluating your portfolio? Yes. And what I was doing, this is what I was actually doing. I'm going to tell you guys right now. Zion, you ready for this?
I'm ready. On the edge of my seat.
I'm on the edge of my seat too, literally. I'm trying to think of how to say this without sounding okay. I'm ready. Real estate is boring. Okay, guys, it is so boring. It's numbers driven. It's cold. Like there's no, there's nothing fun about it. It's just very. So what I'm wanting to do now is invest in places that I like to go, like where I like to go visit, where I like to see, like Ziona, like Bali would be a cool place to pick up a property, and then maybe a shorter midterm rent out. So I think I'm just changing the way that I investing, like places that I like to go with my family and stuff. I want to invest there. I did that with Aptos. It didn't work. It is working now, but it didn't work for a long time. So I'm ready to let that go and move that money into somewhere else that a market just like we're talking about that I know is already going to perform, that has that ability. And I'd rather just start adding a little bit of like joy to the properties that I have that are, if they're not, and this is my note to everybody. If you guys have properties that aren't performing, they haven't performed well, cut them loose and go to somewhere else, or make them and turn them into a long-term rental or something. Like you don't have to continue to bleed on a strategy that isn't working for you. Not all of them are going to work. Again, it's like a trial and error type of thing. I think if you put more energy in it, you're going to get more out of it, but it does require a lot. But if you're doing this and it doesn't work, like you got to like move on to something else. And I think I'm at that point now where it's like, okay, I got a couple properties that don't perform well. I'm going to cut them loose and move them into another spot that I know is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just being a smart investor that's not going to continue to lose money when you need to cut your loss and go somewhere else. Like that's part of the game. You're going to lose and you're going to win some. You know what I mean? I think that too many people don't realize that not everything is going to work. Like I'm okay with base hits. What about you, Ziona?
I don't like a base hit, but like whatever. If you have to, you have to. What I don't want is like a long failure, right? It's like a fail fast. Okay, this didn't work. How can I either like change the strategy, make this sober living, do something different with the property, or sell it, maybe do creative financing? And you can make money on your equity, or just take that equity, harvest it out, and put it into a different type of investment. I I don't want to be bad, but I'm gonna just like say that I didn't love like your example because I have been one of those people that bought in a lot of different markets. And the thing that sucks about that is that you reinvent the wheel every time. So, what I tend to tell people is like find a market where it works for you and just like double down on that market, which you've done. You have a lot of your properties in the same place. And I would just say, if you want to diversify, do other kinds of investments, but buying in different vacation markets you're going to feel drawn to go to that place even if you don't want to because you have this like guilt of like, oh, I need to go stay in that place. And then you have to like build out a new team every time. It's just a lot. And you're paying taxes in different states. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox, but I did
No.
that and I don't recommend it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in that
Yeah.
position now where it's like I wanna invest in something that I feel is like, I'm gonna go there, or I'm gonna wanna hang out there in the summertime. Like, my kids are my youngest is gonna be 13 this year, so, like, I want him to finish out high school at the high school he goes to here in town, and, then after that, obviously move somewhere else. So I'd wanna go stay during the summer and, a property somewhere, go stay somewhere, in another place. But you're right, like, I did get that when I had Aptos, like, I felt like I had to go there sometimes, but there's also
Yeah.
properties that I haven't been in, like, years that I still own. And actually, a lot of the ones that are in my backyard, Ziona, I haven't even been to them in like, and when I make YouTube videos, the first time one of the first videos I did recently, I haven't been in that house in like literally 2.5 years, and it's 20 minutes from me down the road. I just
And
haven't.
you're like, ooh, this house needs a remodel. Getting there going like, "Ooh."
Yeah, I actually was doing that. I was like, I think we need to like do this up again. But that's a place that's constantly booked all the time. It's one of the high, yeah, yielding cash flow properties. This is actually another question I have for you. I wanted to ask you this because they're all about financial literacy and stuff. What do you think is more important, net worth or cash flow?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think, oh man, it always depends on where you are in your life. So if you don't have active income, then cash flow is really important. But if you have active income, then building that net worth and making sure that that equity is invested, I think is more important. So, like, personally, I love selling real estate and I'm having a lot of fun with real estate. So, for now, I'm not thinking about just stopping at all. So, I have way more active income that I need to live off of. So, the investments that I make are equity driven, where I'm like, oh, can I double my money in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or whatever? That's what I'm looking at because the cash flow ones end up actually being less. You might get like a 10% return instead of a 20 or 25% return that comes from waiting longer. So that's where I'm at. But if I was trying to quit my job, I needed money to live off of, the cash flow would be important.
Yeah. I just got asked that question recently. I was like, I didn't know how to answer that. I was like, I'm gonna ask Yona. That's a good question since you're really into that.
Well, steal my answer. You're
I'm
good.
going to. Please, AI, make a note of this so I can go back to it later. Thank you very much. All right. Another question here. Brandon, what's up again? Would you consider adjacent business such as development? I would love to get in development at some point. What about you, Ziana? Would you ever do
No,
that? Or
heck no. You know what? The real estate is a huge umbrella, and I think people very often get comfortable and they're like, oh, I know real estate. I can do development now. I can do self storage. I can do the. I don't know shit about that. What? No. Stay in your lane.
I know I do that.
Well, yeah, I've been spending a lot of time investing into figuring out how to do passive investments and syndication. But that's like, I'm giving myself like a bachelor's degree on it. I'm listening to podcasts and books and talking to people and making my own investments and making mistakes. Like, that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't want anything to do with development. Sounds
Sh-
cute, but no.
Shiny object syndrome. I've always wanted to be like ground up stuff, like create that and make it into a thing. Like I love the beginning and the end of something. Like I love that middle of like building something. I always love that. In fact, this is something I've learned recently about myself that before I left my W-2 job, I went and worked for a bunch of startups, same field. In fact, we had like meetings in my rental properties. We would create this home health or hospice company, and we would go sit in the living room and have meetings about patients, like in the living room, because we didn't have an office yet. And I was going back thinking about it. I was like, dude, I really love that beginning of like starting something, that excitement. I don't like maintaining things. Like I want to always continue to create. So I think in part of my nature, and this is something I've 42 years barely freaking realized like last year. I love that ability of like being able to build. I'm good at that. That's where my genius, my zone of genius is in that little kind of visionary bubble. Get me outside of that. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. But again, it took me 42 freaking years to realize that, Ziana.
I think that's what's been really fun about investing in different projects. Lately, last year I invest in a lot of boring things like industrial storage facilities and blah 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 because the cash on cash makes sense, the equity play is good and it's steady. But then every once in a while I put a little money aside to do something fun. So last year I invested in a concept bar that's all about like records and it's really like vibey and cool. And it's just cool to go there and be like, this is a thing that is alive because of me. And I didn't have to do that much because I'm just the investor, but I got to like physically be in the space. And this year I'm going to invest in like a wellness place that's like cold plunge and sauna and whatever. And it looks dope. But I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to go there and be that person that helps contribute to it. So it's cool to have these like physical places that I can visit and enjoy. And it's like, wow, that became something because of me.
Yeah, that sounds freaking awesome. In fact, there's a bar in Sacramento that just opened up. It's called I forget what it's called, but it's called a high fidelity bar, where it's
Yeah,
like
that's the same concept where it's like super like good lighting and like really quality music, and they have all these like DJs spinning like vinyl. It's really
yeah,
cool.
exactly. They'll have like 60s night on Tuesday. So like you hear the Doors and you'll hear the Beatles and like you're like and they have like these hi-fi speakers and that's such a big thing right now with vinyl and like the audio nerds that are into stuff like that. I love music, so it's like a really big thing to me. But like that's something I thought about. I would love to create or open a bar like that. Do I have the freaking time to do that? No, but that would be cool to like, go and do something like that. And you're part of it. And you actually get to walk in there, sitting there, like, dude, I own part of this. Like this is like part of what I gave some. And
That's
there's
real.
something really there's something that's really amazing to like sit in a place like that and be like, I actually contributed to this. Do you feel that in that place? Or
Yes. No,
yeah.
it's super cool. I mean, unfortunately that bar is in Kansas City, so I've only been there once. But the next time we open a location, I'll just call you up and be like, hey, it's your time.
I know. I'm ready to do it.
Yeah,
I think that's so cool to open something like that. I've always thought I was going to own a restaurant. So like one day I'm going to probably own a restaurant because I've been thinking about it forever. I don't know what that's going to be, but I know for a fact I will own that. I think it'd be cool to be an angel investor. That's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to stop all this midterm stuff. I'm just going to be an angel investor.
yeah.
And
I think I thought I wanted to do that when I grew up too. But the horizons on angel investments, well, this is I just realized. I was like,
yeah,
oh, I just want to be a shark. But the horizon on businesses is like a 10-year play. And
yeah.
I am way too impatient for that. So even the 5-year holds are a lot. And I'm kind of like sticking with those. So anyway,
Yeah, that bar that I was talking about in Sacramento is called Legend Has It. If you guys get a chance, look it up. It's like downtown Sacramento. It's a hi-fi bar, opened
yeah,
last year.
go there, tag Jesse, take photos.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm actually probably gonna go there this weekend because I'm so excited about going to it. So I'm gonna do that. Anyway, Ziana, what do you have coming up? Like what you I know you're gonna be at the summit. So April 27th to the 29th, you guys are gonna hear talk about
Yes.
creative financing sub two, how to find the deals. So make sure to go to that event. Tickets at midtermrentalsummit.com. What's next for you in your investment world? You talked about you're doing more of the syndications. You might move to
Uh,
Bali. What's the next thing for Zeona McIntyre? Another book coming along?
yeah.
What's going on here, Zeona?
I
Spill the
know. Okay, so I have a creative finance book, and it has been so much harder to write a book this time around. And, maybe it's just because I'm doing it on my own and whatever, self-publishing, all of it. But
Mhm.
I have it more than halfway done. So this thing is happening, but I won't have it before the summit. So I'll just have more to say about it by then. But yeah, this year, 2025, creative finance book will be out. Just because I really want people to have like an A to Z how to do it. And I find that even today, when I want to look into like certain concepts, there's not enough info out there. And so I just struggle. I'm like, no, I want people to know how to do it. But this year, yeah, I've got your summit coming up. And then after your summit, I'm going to be in Mexico for a whole month surfing.
Wow, super.
So, that's dope. Yeah. And then Bigger Pockets Conference, that'll be in Vegas this year, which will be real fun.
In
So,
October, right?
that's in October. Yeah, totally.
Super awesome. So you're doing all the things, going all over the world, writing
Yeah.
books, ghost writing, you're doing it yourself.
No, I'm doing it myself. Whew, it's a
Look
slog. I'm gonna tell you.
look at you. I was thinking about writing a book. I was like, I need a ghostwriter though. There's no way I'm gonna be able to spend the time and I think I talked to you about this before. I was like, I want to go and like rent a cabin somewhere in the woods and like spend a weekend or like that's probably not even realistic. I think you told me like, dude, don't ever do that. I think that was you. Was that
I
you?
don't know. I don't think I'd say never do that, but you're not gonna get it done in a weekend. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're crazy, but
I
yeah.
think I asked you this in like 2020, like right after you got done writing your book. You don't remember this, but I was like, Zion, I want to write a book so bad. Like I've been thinking about it for years. And I was like, I want to go rent a house. Like, you see authors go to like the dim woods looking place in the middle of nowhere and they just write books. And you're like, don't do that. It's dumb. If you have to go there to write a book, don't write a book. I think you told me that. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take that advice. That sounds pretty serious.
Oh, well, I would never wanna be someone who stops someone about, like, doing creative things, putting creative endeavors into the world because I think it's healing for us to do even whatever, painting
Sure.
or photography or any of that. I think that's important for the human experience, but, um, the realities of writing a book, it's like it's real. It's hard work. and it can be very confronting with all your demons. It's great.
Yeah.
Highly
I know.
recommend.
I'm gonna do it this year. I'm gonna do that. I'm putting that out to the world to do it. Jose just messaged me and said, "I'm in Sac. Let's meet up." Jose, send me a note. I'll be there on Saturday, dude. We'll go to the Hi-Fi bar, listen to the Beatles or something. So awesome. Where Ziona, where can folks find you if they want to go connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, get your book in the future this year?
Yes, ZeonaMcIntyre.com, Zeona McIntyre on Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I'm doing a lot of like investment raises. Like I'm helping fundraise for these cool projects. So if you guys are like, oh, I think I just want to skip right ahead and be in passive investing, like reach out for that too. And Jesse, I'm gonna just be calling you up. I'll be like, yo, what about this cool deal? What about this thing?
I know, right? Yeah, I'm excited to
Yeah.
do that. I would love to jump in on that. Sounds awesome. All right, hang on. We got another question here before we get out. How's the furnished finder market in Cleveland, Ohio, specifically, and even generally, given the federal cuts of Medicaid hospitals? Aren't you seeing a dip in travel nurses? There's been a dip in travel nurses since 2022. They've dipped a lot. There's still a ton of travel professionals. They're not paying as well. The stipend pays cut in half. So nurses are wanting less. They want to get in for like literally $1,000 to $1,500 for a property. I'm talking like everywhere. Even San Francisco nurses are like, they don't want to pay $2,000 for a room or even a place. Do you know anything about that market at all? Are you familiar with?
I was sending a ton of people to Cleveland. I thought for a while that that was a really good market. Now I'm a little unsure. So I would feel a little more bullish about Cincinnati, but it's a more expensive market, so it's tricky. Cleveland does have Cleveland Clinic, but I just think it's so saturated. So it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I think if you are going to go to Cleveland, you got to like go all in on like finding contracts and really spend. And it's not passive at all. Like you have to actually create a business out of that. That would be my suggestion if you're going to go into a market that's that heavy with that many people. Because you're right, that's been an investor friendly market for like the longest time. I remember when I first got into investing, like everybody on Bigger Pockets was talking about Cleveland. Brandon Beardy
Yeah.
and team. So it's just been a hot market for a long time. I don't know if it is anymore. In fact, I've had a lot of people that reached out to me and have said they haven't been able to get their properties rented there. So if you bought them years ago,
Yeah.
mortgage rate is low, cool. But if you're buying now, you might want to be a little weary on that. Just my thought.
I agree.
Yeah. So anyway, Ziona, awesome having you here. It's fantastic. I look forward to seeing you again in real life, IRL, in April, which is like literally 47 days away at the summit. So thank you. Did I say thank you? Thank you so much for thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate you spending the time and energy with me and everybody else here today. So
Yeah.
thanks again. I appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you for listening to the JV podcast. I'm Jesse Vasquez, your host. I appreciate you for listening. And if you could do me a huge solid, go like and subscribe to this. This helps us tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.